the best-selling book, The Boys in the Boat, about a ragtag team of rowers who hope to compete in the 1936 Olympic Games, is now a major motion picture directed by George Clooney. Let's talk about The Boys in the Boat. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie review for the new film, The Boys in the Boat. This is in theaters right now, and like I said, it's based on a very popular book from about 10 years ago. It's one of my mom's favorite books, so when I saw the poster for this movie, I was like, okay, I vaguely kind of know what that is from my mother talking about the book. I didn't know anything about, who was in it, or even that Clooney was directing it until I looked a little more into it, but, look, I was all in on this movie. Clooney, I think, has a great eye behind the camera. Not all of his movies as a director, are solid. He's had a few missteps along the way, including his previous attempt at a sports film, which was Leatherheads. I really did not care for that one. So hopefully this one's better, right? Before we launch into the specifics of it and my thoughts, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We do movie and TV reviews here on the channel, and there's always a lot to check out. So please consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, hit that like button down below. All that stuff helps the channel out. And in the description, check out, we have the Facebook, the Twitter, or X, I guess they call it now. And also, new this year, I've added my link to Letterboxd. Letterboxd is a movie review and sort of diary site where you can log all the movies you've seen and what your ratings are and all of that. So you can check that out as well. And I'll, as soon as I get out of the theater or whatever, I hit the letterbox and put what movie I saw, so you can check out there, what movies I've seen, even before I post the videos for them, so that's really cool too. I love Letterboxd. But anyway, all right, so on to this movie, The Boys in the Boat. Like I said, George Clooney is the director here, and I am a Clooney fan. I'll throw it out there, both in front of, like I said, and behind the camera. He's, in one of my all-time favorite movies, The Descendants, but he's also directed some cool stuff as well. But little background on the story itself. Like I said, this is about a group of rowers, crew, they call them, who are attempting to join in on the 1936 Olympic Games in Germany. However, they are from the University of Washington. They are a very poor bunch of kids, especially compared to, the Ivies, and the fact that people on those teams have been rowing their entire lives. They were born into it because money. So this group of kids does not have those means. And so there are some, workarounds maybe with that, but in some instances, certainly that makes them try harder. So the stars here, Joel Edgerton plays the coach. We've seen him, of course, in so many things. But Callum Turner plays sort of the guy that we follow. I don't want to call him the head rower because he's not in the very front of the boat. But he is sort of the one that we follow the most. Him and his good buddy, let's see. Boy, I don't know. They list all of these names here. Who's his best buddy? I don't know. Jack Mulhern, perhaps? Yeah, maybe. I think that might be him. Anyway, but Callum Turner, you may know from the Dumbledore movies. What are they called? Fantastic Beasts. He is Scamander's, I guess, brother or something, because he plays Theseus Scamander. So I think that's the brother. I don't really care for those movies. But anyway, that's probably what you would know him from the most. And there's a few other people you may recognize in this movie, but mostly we focus on Joel Edgerton's character and Callum Turner's character, and then, a few other people along the way. But George Clooney certainly has a style of directing, and that style is classic cinema. And the look of this movie, the feel of this movie, the music cues for this movie, I think would have been old-fashioned 20 years ago, let alone today. But in some respects, that sort of makes it, a familiar kind of movie. Like, I think probably the best movie that Clooney has directed, I would have to look at all of his filmography, but I would say, for me, is Good Night and Good Luck, which was a black and white movie in, like, 2006 or something. there's about 2 black and white movies a year, at that point, and they're always for like more artistic reasons. And he decided to do this movie about McCarthyism in the 50s, and so it was black and white. And that kind of is Clooney's, I don't know, sort of hallmark. Like, he is a classic movie lover, certainly, but realistically, he's one of the last, like great movie stars, and certainly has the look of the classic movie star that's left. Tom Cruise certainly can open movies, but they're in sort of different categories. Like, Tom Cruise is in like the blockbuster category of, he's probably the last great movie star there. But I think George Clooney is probably the last of the great movie stars in a more classic sense. And it shows in his directing. Like, right away, even in the first scene, like when the music swells, it all seems very sort of dated. And I don't mean that as a slight. I really don't. They don't, make movies like this anymore. That's, the old phrase. But they really actually don't. Like, even if this came out, like I said, in 2000, 2005, I think it would have looked old school then. So when you see it now, and Alexander Payne's The Holdovers kind of had that quality. Like, yeah, it's new, and it took place in the 70s, but it could have been made in the 70s too. And Alexander Payne has that sort of quality as well. Not through all of his movies, but certainly in that one. So I don't necessarily mean that as a slight, but it is maybe affecting the originality or the urgency of the film, stacked against, some others that are out now. It looks like nothing else. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing. This is one that has more mixed reviews critically on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience score is like 96% or something. And I think that makes sense. This is a feel-good movie. This is a classic sports movie. And in that vein, we do get a lot of, similar tropes and stuff. But I read up on, both kind of the book and the movie a little bit. I like to do the fact versus fiction kind of thing when I watch a historical movie and see, okay, what did they get right? Almost everything in this movie really did happen, to some degree. And they didn't really need to embellish that much because it is pretty accurate to what happened. And the book is, I guess, too. So in that respect, everything you're seeing on the screen, most of it was not like overly dramatized or whatever. One of my big complaints, though, is that because we do spend so much focus on Caleb Turner's character, Joe, is it Joe France? Joe Rance. We spend so much time on Joe and the head caller at the beginning of the boat, and then the first rower, and then Joe's buddy. Those 4 are kind of the boys in the boat that we focus on. And I understand, I'm sure the book, had more time to explore other characters. But, at the end of the movie, they're kind of flashing on all the different boys, and you could have swapped out the other 5 or 6. I would have had no idea. I'm looking at them at the end of the movie, and I'm like, I don't even know if I've seen this guy in the movie the whole time. So they put so much focus on those few characters that we got to know everybody else not at all. And I think that's sort of a bummer. Like, I understand where they were going. They wanted us really to sympathize with the Joe character, which I did. And listen, for a sport that I could not give a rip about, Clooney made these rowing challenges, in the competitions pretty interesting. I was definitely, like, oh, okay, where are we going with this? How are they going to do, and I could not care less, about rowing, or crew team or any of that. So for that respect, he certainly got me invested in at least Joe's story and the coach. I want the coach to win, of course, for his life, and we get to know him and the assistant coach, a good bit as well. But look, overall, this was a pretty good movie. I do think it's a little schmaltzy at times. I do think because of that classic feel of it, maybe it's not as original as, some other sports movies of late. But like I said, there is something to be said for that classic style of George Clooney's directing, something that we really don't see, that is quite a throwback. And even Leatherheads, his first sports movie that he directed, was very similar because it took place, I think, in the 20s or something, or the 1910s. Like, it's really, really old. Didn't care for that, but this is much, much better than Leatherhead. So, and check out the book, too. You can see this in theaters now. I leave The Boys in the Boat with a solid B. You know, definitely got me invested in those characters. I wanted to know more, though, about some of the other ones that we just completely glossed over. So maybe the book has more about that. All right, thank you so much for watching Dan Reviews It. We'll see you next time.